if I can find a spot so I can show you now. Like here, so if I wanted to, I can blend across that with my stiff brush because it makes such a thin layer and scrub it in.
I'm very serious that scrubbing is such a
It's a little
revelation.
annoying. It's a little annoying.
It's not annoying, it's amazing.
There's so much dark. Is that the area you're working on with a little bit of darkness?
This right here, look at it, and it's not really this dark yet, I think,
Yes.
because it's gonna have one more layer. And like I said, I lighten up as I go. And that's why I did this. Was like, okay, see, it's just a little bit. It's gonna be a little bit lighter, and I started to work on this. There's a little glow down in here in the center of the flower, so I started to put in that a little bit. That's what I was scrubbing and blending. And there's a light. This is shadow and this is light. This is all one petal. So it's going from almost like a red down here to a blue up here and then almost white in between. So that's going to be a challenge to do
Have those
that.
beautiful oranges in the center.
I can't wait to do that. I can't wait to show you that trick.
Yeah.
So
What's
keep
amazing
an eye
to
on my
me
time
is that we, the patron, would not know how exacting you are working to match the real McCoy. That is really so interesting to me.
But it's not a deal breaker either.
No, it's not a deal
You know,
breaker
if it's like,
because
ooh,
there's
I
artistic
really, it's not quite the
license.
same, but I really like that color, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it. You know, I really like that shape, I'm gonna leave it.
Artistic license.
Yeah, it's not, these petals are not gonna exactly be to
Well, no one's going to be looking
but I
at that
liked it,
picture.
I like 95% of it, so I don't have to change a whole lot. Okay, but I'm gonna move around now, 'cause I do wanna have time to talk about the stories and some of the paintings that I have on the wall. So 1, 2, 3 is gonna get in these smaller details, and then the last thing, I mean, you can see the difference now.
Wow,
This
it's so
This,
pretty.
between this, almost done, and this was the first layer of color up here to fill in the colors. So lots of opportunity to change and modify the colors, the shapes, and when you're starting out like this. When I get down to here, I'm committed. This is a clean edge on this petal right here. That edge, I wanted that to be crisp. I wanted that to be, look like a thin petal, but this one I wanted that one to roll back, and these are gonna roll back. And obviously this one rolls back over here. So I'm gonna get to that part. I'm gonna skip to 4. I got this pretty much where I can show you some of it. But I really I was so excited about showing this trick of getting that to glow. So right now I've just been using pretty much opaque paint. Sometimes I mix a little white in, so
Opaque means.
you can't see through it. So you got opaque, you can't see through it, like the white paint on this wall, opaque.
Okay,
Translucent, you can see a little bit through
I
it.
see.
And then transparent is like glass. And transparent watercolors use transparent colors a lot because they have layers and layers, and they want the underneath to show through. So I have this other little study brush that's all frayed and like nuts. But let me do this a little spritz. This is a medium that I use with acrylics. It's a slow dry medium, but it's clear. So if you have a problem and you think your paints are drying too fast, use this instead of water. And it looks a little milky when it comes out, so you gotta know that it's gonna dry differently. But I'll take some of that, and I'm gonna make a little bit kind of like an orange and I'm gonna add some of that slow dry medium because it's clear. And it's about 50-50, so I know you can't see it, but so what I have now is a clear medium with a little bit of orange in it. And you can take that.
It's the equivalent of a glaze.
This is a glaze.
Yeah.
Does a glaze make it shiny
Nope.
Glazes,
or hard?
so when you think about paint, right? Paint is like in acrylic, it's a plastic. with little tiny little dust bits of pigment.
Yeah, the
right?
pigment is.
That's what
powder.
pigment is.
Yeah,
And
it's
the
powder.
better the paint, the more opaque it is, the more of those little pigment bits are in there.
Oh.
But when you're doing a glaze, you are putting down lots of binder, lots of
Right.
clear with very few of those little pigment things.
It just,
So
it
you're
waters
getting
it,
light.
yeah, it like thins it,
Oh.
waters it down.
Yeah.
It's like adding, think of adding water to it and it would become like that first layer you saw where you can see everything through it. But we use this instead. And because it doesn't deplete the binders like water would if you did a thin coat of water, it would deplete the binders and it just makes it harder for the next layer to come along. So if you're watching, then you can see where I put that here. Find another spot, like here. Or I just want a little bit of that. Come out there, and you can put it over light colors or over dark colors. I could put it, there's a little bit of it in there. But you can see, and I'm gonna do it right here, and then I'm gonna erase it, but I'm gonna show you.
Kathy, how did you know to use orange?
For this,
Yeah.
because it looks orange on there. I just looked at let's see, what color do I want it to be? I digress. I forgot the step before that is you need to have what you know you're gonna want that glow. The first thing you have to do is make it lighter. So if you have to go in and make this lighter, because your glaze is you're gonna see through your glaze. So with colors that are, I think the most difficult color to paint with in acrylics is yellow. And because it's just translucent and it's bright and, light in the beginning, it doesn't have a lot of value. So, and I'm gonna go to this on my, this is my play piece. So you're gonna plant a yellow flower, but you see all the green that shows through there? Okay. So the first thing you have to do is make it lighter. So you can put a little white in it. It's still a little. Sometimes I use gesso. If I need to put what I like call a blocking color. So this would take a couple layers because it's going over pretty. Let me do it over here. So you're gonna make it lighter first. Smooth it out.
Because it's set against such a dark color.
Yeah, if you have to do something over a dark color, you can't paint yellow. It doesn't matter how many layers of yellow paint you put on that, you would still be able to see the green coming through the underneath.
Wow.
So by using some gesso in with the color or some white paint and making it. So then once that dries, now this is lighter than what you want it to be. Let's see if I can.
Why do you prefer gesso to, say, titanium white or something?
If I need a block, think of gesso as a primer.
Mm-hmm.
Its purpose is to cover up what's underneath. I think of it as, first of all, it's looser, it's liquid, rather than sticky, like out of the tube. But it also blocks, like primer. I think of it as a primer coat. I rarely use a fan, but it's like, I'm gonna want something to dry fast, so.
I have a hair dryer that I've been using.
Yeah. But I think I can do over that, as long as I don't scrub. I can show you what. So then, this is just like cadmium yellow light. And if I took that and made a glaze with it, with my clear green, then you can paint over that. You see it's yellow. Okay.
Creating a much warmer.
But if I try to paint that over green,
Yeah.
you can't paint over green. So it really, what's like you were saying earlier about the light being reflected, the light's going through and hitting that white layer underneath and bouncing back. So you're gonna get almost a luminosity or the glow or a light source, which we can't create with paint. We can't make a light source. And where we're seeing, this is actually light reflective, but we can't make our paintings like on light bulb. Well, you could, I guess you could put light bulbs. Anyway,
That's been one of the frustrations, because with digital, you are painting
right,
with
you're
lights.
painting with light, and so,
And
right.
so learning to adapt to that has been quite difficult.
So, and say I wanted that to be, if I wanted that to be orange, like a bright orange, then I could just put that as a glaze over it. And have that same effect and have the, there, that worked. You can see how it's brighter than if I just painted with that color, try to make that color and just paint straight with that color.
Yeah.
Because you've got the lighter underneath, and sometimes it's even white. Sometimes I even put a pure white if I just want a really bright, light cad yellow, and I don't want any tint to it or anything, and I just use a little bit of white, and then put that over it. So that's kind of the glow. And then by opposite of that, I wanted to be sure and show you how to get those darks. At the very end, the very last thing I do is the darkest darks and the lightest lights. And that's going to be just a few places on the canvas. It's not a lot. So I'm making my black here with my purple and green. And I do, it's really dark. And this is what I'm going to use on the green. I do use Payne's Gray. Like I said, I started using Payne's Gray. It has a slight blue tint to it, so you can't use it, but it does work really good to dull something. If you want a color and you want it dulled down and not so vibrant, and you really do want a dull color, then you can add some of that. So this being, there's two darks, you can see it's if I put it over here, you can see it's translucent, you can see underneath it. But if I put it over those dark areas, it's gonna make them super dark. And you can put it in and you can feather it out if you need to as well. It's kind of a dry brush technique.
And you're doing that with purple,
That's the
and,
purple and
green. That's cool.
I find that to be darker than the blue and brown. And it's, I gotta get the exact color here for you. Oh, Hooker's Green, deep hue. I take and smear paint on the tops of my tubes so I can see and it kind of helps me see what they're really, can't really tell by looking at it like that. But it kind of gives me so you can see how dark it is to begin with. And then the purple is dioxazine purple. And that's worn off, but it's also really, really dark. So you can see.
Yeah.
And they're fairly almost opposite on the color wheel, so they're going to work together to make a gray, black, and they don't turn out brown. So if I really don't want brown or blue, then I do this.
Thank you.
That's how I do. So that's the last, and then the very last is going to be like the thin little lines. I can't get rid of my tiny brushes. Kind of had to not do impressionism. So I have the tiny brushes. So that's where there's going to be, if there was an edge that you really wanted to emphasize, along there. And then put that down, and then you can take another brush really quickly and just feather it out. And I don't know if you can see that from there, but
Wow.
so just so that it wasn't a line of paint, so it just became the edge. So, and that's super fun to do because that's like, oh, that's what I've been waiting for this whole time. Was just that little bit of a, just that
Well,
little
it really
bit of
makes it pop.
But that's what's really gonna bring those edges out. And that's where I'm gonna find these really bright spots. And what color is that? That's kind of got a little yellow in it. There's a little yellow in here and here. And, even these lighter areas down here where it's cooler, where there's some blue in there. Oh, and that's where this comes in handy. Is if you have, it's like, what color is that? And then you go, okay, is it this color? And then you can, if you're using your photo for reference, oh yeah, right there. It's that color.
That's
And then when I go
That's
put it
good
down
tip.
here, it looks different. So that's that, being fooled kind of thing.
Juniper do it, but I still can't comprehend. I don't understand how you start with just the nothing, and then you can wait, and you're like, oh, this is what I was looking forward to. Like
Yeah,
putting on all these layers, and you're thinking,
right. And that's
Wow.
just years and years of the process of, how I do it. And I've never been in a hurry. I usually sit and paint and don't stand. Like I said before, I have to set a timer.
yeah.
Because if I'm obsessing over it and really like zoned in and it's 3 or 4 hours and I haven't gotten up. And then when you get up, it's like, okay, go to the bathroom and then you can't move because, you can't move because my back hurts or my feet don't want to work.
I think art's like that because when I used to work in my darkroom, I would lose all track
Right.
of time. And
Right.
sometimes I would be in there for 8 hours and I would not have any clue I'd been in there that long.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd think I'd lose weight. But don't seem to have a problem with finding enough to eat. It might be the candy bag. It might be the bag of candy in my studio hidden. So as I was saying lastly, I'm looking for those things at the end. There's a green I like to use. It's called green gold. And it's a real olive. It's a real olivey green. You can even brighten it up. It brightens up things quite nicely. So because I want this little sunny spot right here to be a little bit sunnier. So I just don't have a lot of paint on my brush and I'm just kind of dry brushing it and using it to blend and just to brighten that up. Just to see the difference now between that and that sunlight. There's going to be some up here, which I can kind of try to find. I don't know what these are, so I think it's another leaf or something, but I kind of like it. So this is just telling me where it's at. This is not going to be the final layer yet, but you can already start to see it. And there's a big difference between like these little sunny spots. There's some down here. It's kind of interesting in here. And like light highlights. So it got bigger than I wanted. Okay. Oh, that's another good thing to show you. Erasing. It's like, oops, I don't like that. If you immediately get it wet and take your paper towel,
Oh, wow.
you can erase it.
Blot, not scrub.
Yep, blot. I scrubbed with the brush, but the brush is soft.
So will it take off the other layers?
No, because they're dry. They're permanent plastic. As long as you didn't just paint them. If you just painted them an hour ago, it might. But if you painted them 2 days ago, it won't take off anything else underneath. So you can, and if you go over like this edge, it's like, oops, too far. You can take that brush and you can just, from the outside and push. I should show you how to do that on my crazy one over here. Let's see. Take this. So this.
Oh, there goes
I'm
your.
excited. So you wanted to paint this. It's like, oops, I went too far. That's too big. Okay.
Sorry, I keep
So
trying
then
to
just
find the
take-
right angle.
Yeah, then just get a stiff brush, clean, just get water on it, and just push it over. Okay, so I kind of erased some of it. dab that up real good. And then just use the water to push it in your brush. Make a new edge,
Yeah.
okay?
How long does it take acrylic to like fully cure?
I like to leave things, because it's thin, 24 hours before I do anything that might lift up any other paint. And the final layer is going to be a varnish, but technically it's not varnish. Acrylics, varnish by definition, if you talk to a conservator, varnish by definition can be removed. So you put a varnish on an oil paint, a conservator, or anybody later on could use a solvent, and you can take that varnish off if it turns brown or whatever, like they do with conservation. But with acrylics, when you put the acrylic varnish on, it binds and melts and molecularly to the underneath acrylic layers, and it cannot be removed.
Oh.
So it's not legally, technically, a varnish. I use clear. They call it varnish, but I learned from conservator that it's not varnish. This was satin, and I get a high gloss, a regular gloss, Liquitex. This isn't Liquitex, but it was all I could get at the time. I like to keep all the brands the same. They're formulated, they're tested with themselves, with their own brand. And so that's what it's designed for, or that's what I like to use. But I mix the satin half and half with the gloss because I don't like flat and I don't like super shiny. But that's the last thing that goes on, and I can do that because you can paint over it. It's not, but I can demonstrate that a little bit. And have you ever done woodworking? Anybody ever done woodworking and you put varnish on a piece of wood when you're done? You stained it, and then you go to put the varnish on. If it's polyurethane or whatever it is, and you put that on, and it like comes to life.
Yeah.
All the dryness looking goes away, the flatness goes away. The same thing happens with this. I use this big soft brush and my clear varnish, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it on here. Yeah, you really can't see it from back there. Yeah, it's not really going to show up, but trust me, it makes a big difference. It has a milky look to it. There, you can see right there. And that's going to stay. That's not going to go away once it dries.
So is that something that most acrylic painters don't do? Because I've always marveled at how your acrylic paintings glow,
And I think that's so important. And I think when acrylics first came out, they were chalky.
Yeah.
Because if you mix white to make everything lighter, it's going to look chalky. And so I think that was a mistake that or not a mistake, but a learning curve that a lot of people that started with acrylics learned, they used too much white, I think. So when I started using less white and doing these glazes to get things lighter and brighter, to lighten the value without adding white. So figure out how to do that. And that's just a lot of play. But you could see that when I put that on there. You can tell from the angle for sure. But I think that's important. I think that's an important step. So that then 24 hours before I do that minimum, because I do not want to lift up I use a really soft brush so I don't risk scrubbing anything off. Just in case I put too much water in something and I don't have enough binder in that last little bit of paint I put on, I don't want to lift that off and scrub that off. So this is 2 coats of the varnish, always, almost always. 2 coats
Is it
of
a
varnish.
spray or a brush?
It's a brush on. It's just a liquid, and I use a real soft brush. You have to be careful. I practice warning. If you brush too much, it'll make tiny little bubbles, microscopic little bubbles and they'll dry, and then it looks cloudy.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to use. You just have to do it kind of slow. And I start at the top and I let it, run down and fill in, and then check real careful to make sure I didn't leave any little bubbles that are gonna show up later, but it's important, so it's just worth the time to take to do that, so. But yeah, so that's the last step, and I think that, I mean, you can see that makes a difference.
Yeah.
So that was, okay, so any other questions about anything else? I didn't show a lot of this final step, but it's just looking for those little details and using a smaller brush so you can find them easier. What did I do right there? What is that? Where did that come from? My hand. Oh, it's like,
Very relatable.
yeah. Well, you know, it's that, and then you can see I'm really scrubbing, and you can see I lifted up the paint underneath to get that look off. How did I do? I must have laid my hand on it. Because see, look. Evidence.
You're giving us a very fine demonstration of what happens when you go over paint again.
Yeah, there you go. And I'll just put a little something over that to cover it up. So. And I can't stop. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you said you plot out the points so that you keep your, like, how do you do that? On the
Okay.
computer?
I pull everything up on Photoshop.
Oh, okay.
The digital, I use digital photography, put it on Photoshop, pull it up. Whatever editing program. I use Photoshop a little bit. I use maybe 10% of what you can do with Photoshop. It's amazing what you can do. I'm not a photographer. I do like to take pictures, and I have taken some pretty good ones, but most of them are. So there's a grid, not a grid, but a graph. There's a ruler at the top and a ruler on the side. And if you just take your cursor and you use the pointer or eyedropper or a pencil tip or whatever you're going to use and find the spot, and then you go, okay, it's 3.5 inches over. And I didn't bring a ruler, and it's however far down. And this is going to be close enough because I'm not copying, you know. No botanist is going to come and say that rose would never.
So in Photoshop, do you like blow it up to like the size that you're gonna make your canvas?
No.
No.
Just the ratios.
Just so that the ratios stay the same,
Yeah.
and you just
Nah.
just to fill the screen. I just fill the screen, so it'll
Okay.
be like this big. If I want to see more detail, like what is that, and I want to zoom in on I'll zoom in on just a quarter of it, you know, and get that really big because that's got a lot of important little details. But then you just take my ruler and go, okay, it's 3.5 inches over, and I'll just make a little dot with my paint or something, and it's 6 inches down, and I'll go up there, and I'll just make a little dot with the layout is going to be doing this.
But you also take your pictures as raw pictures, right?
It's not called raw; it's just real high resolution.
Okay, I was gonna say with my pictures I take with my phone,
Right.
you
And I
blow
don't-
them up and you
Right.
get in.
And I rarely use a picture from my phone because I can't blow it up enough without doing a raw photo, and that's huge fun. I want to learn how to do that. It'll be a learning curve on my phone that is like, nah, that's for, but I have a good camera. I have a really nice digital SLR camera, the Canon, and it takes, the resolution on the pictures, the size is like 36 inches by 48 inches. That's the size. So then I'll crop, I'll use them, I'll crop them, and it's like, okay, this one's gonna be square, and I'll crop it down and save that. I always save the original because I can't throw anything away. But but you can see on this one, you can see there's little dots here. That's where I was measuring. It's like, that's my, like, okay, it's this far down, and it's gonna be this far over, and then I'll just, move it. So there's little dots. So where I was just finding, I want to find these points for one thing, because I'm lazy. I don't want to paint too much that I don't need. I don't want to paint all the background and then cover it up, because it's a waste of time. And I'm lazy. So I want to know where this is at, so that I can just barely paint over the edge, come back and lay the flower on top of it. Another thing that other painters, like impressionists and other painters do, is sometimes they'll paint the background after they paint the foreground. They'll paint the sky after they paint the tree, and they can put the dots of sky, coming out in between the tree branches. They can do that later, and it works with impressionism. With this, when you're painting realism, I think that your brain can see what's on top of something else. And I think if you can't, like, you don't know what you're looking at, but you can tell that this was painted on top of this and that layer didn't go up to that. I think the way the edge looks, you can't, to do this fuzzy edge into the green, you just really have to. So I always start from the farthest thing away and work my way forward. That's why these are going to be the last things I do, is because that's the most forward thing that's in the that's on the picture. So let me see if I covered everything. Base cover and land sketch. Second base,
You
farthest.
took notes.
I made notes
You brought notes.
in the car on the way here. Just so I was like, I can't think of. Usually, I have as you can tell, I have no trouble talking nonstop. but I couldn't think of it ahead of time. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say.
Well, you've done great.
You
Okay,
done.
good.
I know you're
Checking my notes.
It's so interesting.
Okay, so then the other thing I wanted to do was to kind of point out some things that where these techniques were specifically important in. So the darks in here, this being a night scene, this is right above we live on Sugar Creek, and this is right, I could see out my window that something awesome was happening. I literally ran with my camera down the hill to the bridge, over the creek, and these cloud shifting, you could stand there, and this one was moving this way, and this one was moving this way, and this one was coming down, and the way the light was hitting them all across the sky over my head and picking up all these pinks and oranges, it was like, I just stood there and watched it and took like 100 pictures. Because it changed, it kept changing. It was very difficult to figure out which one to paint. And when you take pictures, as you know, I use autofocus most 90% of the time. It was darkening everything because this was so bright back here that all of this was dark. So I did use Photoshop to lighten the shadows. There's a feature, lighten shadows, to see what was in here. Because if I printed out a photo, it was just going to be black. So I did lighten it up because that's what my eye saw, not what the camera took. The camera adjusted. So that's why it's very difficult for me to paint something I haven't seen, because that spark happens when I see it, and then it kind of like gets filed away, and then later on I'm going to use that photo. It's like, yeah, I just trust my gut, that it's going to come out. So I did lighten these up from the photograph, but this I had to make super dark because this was so shaded and so dark, and I definitely used a glaze back here to get the yellow to glow like that. Some of the other, and this iris too, I love backlit stuff. Like I said, I like that being backlit. And all the way the light is glancing, it must have been over here. No,